Okay, y'all, I am coming to you with yet another update from George R. R. Martin's website where he talks about the animated Game of Thrones spin-offs that they apparently are planning. Nothing has been greenlit yet, but this news is very exciting nonetheless. Let's talk about it. Well, welcome to 2024, everybody. Happy New Year. This year, officially, is when House of the Dragon will return to rip our wigs off and burn us alive, as we so deserve if we do not bend the knee to Queen Rhaenyra of House Targaryen, the first of her name, Queen of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lady of the Seven Kingdoms, and protector of the realm. If you don't bend that knee, I suggest that you take cover. Even then, I don't know if that'll save you, because if Cyrax can't get you, you know what I mean, Caraxes definitely gonna get your ass. So I suggest that you tread very lightly. Don't play with me, Team Black. All right, let's. But yeah, 2024, summer's coming quickly. Let's get this fucking winter bullshit out the way so we can really experience the chaos, the fire and blood that we so deserve. So about what George said, because y'all already know I can rant about Team Black for this entire video. But George said this on his site. As it happens, HBO and I have our own animated projects set in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. None of them have been greenlit yet, but I think we are getting close to taking the next step with a couple of them. When this last round of development started a few years back, we had 4 ideas for animated shows with some great talents attached. Writers' rooms and summits, outline, and scripts followed in due course, but alas, 2 of the original projects were subsequently shelved. Those of you who have read my reports in years may recall that I prefer to say shelved rather than killed, as nothing is ever dead for good in Hollywood, and a project put on the shelf one year can be taken off the shelf a few years later. I still have hopes of presenting the stories that we shelved in another form, perhaps as graphic novels. Work on the other 2 animated projects continues apace. However, and meanwhile, we have moved 9 Voyages, our series about the legendary voyages of the sea snake, over from live action to animation, a move I fully support. Budgetary constraints would likely have made a live action version prohibitively expensive, with half the show taking place at sea, and the necessity of creating a different port every week, from Driftmark to Lys, to the Beslic Isles, to Volantis, to Karth, to, well, on and on and on. There's a whole world out there, and we have a lot better chance of showing it all with animation. So now we have 3 animated projects underway. Will any of them make it to air? Happen? No way to know. Nothing is certain in Hollywood. So yeah, George is basically saying, hey, we're working on 3 animated projects so far. I don't know if any of them will be happening. Hopefully at least one of them does. But yeah, the main point of this post was to let us know that, hey, 9 Voyages has been moved to animation. I think it's a very good idea to have some be live action, and like some stories in A Song of Ice and Fire, and some be animation. Like the ones that seem very manageable to handle live action, like keep it. But if there are some that have been planned as live action and y'all are just like, well, if we did the animation part of it, like the magic and everything would be extremely enhanced. There are a lot of things that we could, or a lot of places that we could go that we don't have to worry about building sets over and over and over again. It will cut down the cost of it. It makes sense to do some of these stories as animation. But I think because of my own preference, there's certain ones where I'm like, girl, do not ever give us only an animated version of X, Y, and Z. For example, Old Valyria. I do think that there are certain parts of Old Valyria, stories in Old Valyria or whatever, that y'all could go into and like prequel kind of tease, or maybe like a side story that exacerbates the Doom of Valyria, like something like that. But like, I want to see Old Valyria in live action. Like, you know what I mean? if you give us a good iteration of old Valyria, the stories, the Doom, whatever that happened there, I would love to also receive like some animated stuff that kind of supplements what the live action is doing, right? But there's certain things where I'm just like, all right, I really do think that's a good idea for animation, but like this specifically, I want to see live action. I do want to see Aegon's Conquest live action. I know that one of the reasons why they did the Dance of the Dragons first, or they honed in on that, was because, well, you have multiple sides here. They're you know, like you're gonna have the greens versus the blacks. You're gonna have that dynamic. Whereas Aegon's Conquest, he just comes in and just says, hey, y'all gonna have to bend that knee, or you're gonna have the knee's gonna burn. So tell me which one you want to do. And so they're just like, a lot. I've heard that the reason why it hadn't been covered in live action was because it was just so one-sided or whatever. But I'm just like, girl, I promise you, I will sit there and watch the whole thing. Like, you can even highlight how Dorne was hard to wrangle in. Like, you could that would be fun to explore. Like, their tussle with Dorne and have it, and the fact that Dorne was just like, girl, we're gonna come to the Seven Kingdoms when we want to come to the fucking Seven Kingdoms. Like, you know what I mean? So I still think that there's a lot there that can be, given to us when it comes to live action. But yeah, I'm thinking about these other things that they had going. Didn't they have like some Long Night one? They had a Long Night live action show or spinoff or whatever that they were trying to plan, but I don't think it went through. So stuff like that, I feel like could be animated. Like, girl, you could show us that shit, like the Long Night and all that shit, through animation. Like, especially because I feel like we got really saturated with a bunch of White Walker stuff, right? And I'm saying that as if we ain't saturated with dragon stuff either. But I don't know, I'm biased to dragons, whatever. You can show us that shit. Also, there are some where I feel like, well, maybe it's kind of like Old Valyria and all that shit, where it's like you could show us some live action and some animation, like the Nymeria ships and all that shit. It would be cool to have like the main series or main show be live action, but then you supplement us with some animated stuff. So it's just like, I think if they balance it really well, that they can hone in on whichever medium makes sense for whichever story in A Song of Ice and Fire, right? Like I said before, Nymeria ships would be cool in live action and animation. The magic of Old Valyria would be cool in animation, but it would be wonderful to see the story of the Doom in live action. So it's like balancing those two. I think the animation and live action would be really cool for building this kind of cinematic universe that obviously HBO and them want to build. So let me know what y'all think of all of this, what you think of George's update, what you think of live action versus animation. Which stories do you want to be animation? Which stories want to be live action? Thank you so much for watching. Love y'all so much, and I'll check y'all out later. Peace. Make sure you check out my series. I published the first book back in 2020. It's called Zeraxia, Wrath of the God King. Links will be in my description. It comes in ebook form as well as audiobook form. I'm working on the sequel. I'm hoping to release it next year. Here is an excerpt of it. Yeah, you can pause to read if you really want to get into it. You know what I mean? The sequel is already twice as long as the book I've already self-published. So yeah, the series is definitely coming along. But yeah, check out the first book. It's the first one in the series, so go easy on me. I was just setting everything up, you know what I mean, figuring things out. But either way, it has a 4.9 star rating on Amazon, so yeah, you should get into it.